Who can tell me what we're learning about today? I'm just curious, who pays attention to the reminders of the calendars?
Car
Car
forms.
forms, pending forms.
That's right. Yes. So you guys are probably sick of us beating you upside the head with forms, 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 forms. But this is one of the most important parts of your business, because if you fill out an offer incorrectly, if there's something you forget to include or a box that you don't uncheck or fill in the blank, that becomes part of the contract. Another really, 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 really important form is the pending form. And you guys are probably sick of us hearing it, but you guys, we still get tons of incorrect pending forms, and that makes the TC's lives hell. I'm just gonna be honest. And so we wanted to get on and take advantage of systems with Serri, and really step by step and have something that you can refer back to, because this will be on the YouTube channel, have an open place to ask questions. This is a little bit more longer form than the team meetings, so we can go in depth and get pretty detailed. This stuff is really, really important, and it's contracts, and it might be kind of blah or boring, but this is really important stuff. So Serri, maybe you can speak a little bit about that. You've been in this business for 20, 25 plus years. And then Rachel is going to be helping us go through contracts today too, which Rachel's very detail oriented. So it's funny, she wrote a contract because we sit right next to each other. She wrote a contract right next to me without a template or anything like that, which, by the way, quick sidetrack, and then Serri, I'll hand it over to you. Who is using our templates and zip forms? Okay.
How about who's not? Who's not using them? Anybody just kind of say no? Anybody not using them? See lots of IMs in the chat. No, not. No, not. Cool.
Okay, well, that's good. You wouldn't be in trouble if you weren't, but your life would be a lot easier if you're not using the templates and you started. I promise you it would make your life a lot easier. And
who doesn't know what we're talking about? And that's okay too. Who's like, what do you mean templates? We have templates? Anyone? Someone's got it.
No? It's okay. You can private message us. Okay, so I'm done talking. This is not my show. It's Serri's and Rachel's, so I'm gonna read it for you guys.
Well, it's primarily Rachel's because, to be honest, I've been out of writing contracts for a little while now, so I'm not the expert. So guess what? Don't come to me for contracts anymore. I'm not the expert, but what I can tell you is when I was the expert at contracts and when I was selling homes, a lot of times what I got back feedback wise was your offer was so clean. How many of you guys have heard that? Your offer was so clean. How many of you guys have had listings where you're like, man, look at these offers that are coming in. Some people just literally would send me their DocuSign with no information. They would just forward the DocuSign over. That was it. Right. And then when I'd start looking at it, it was like some things were, some things weren't. It was just like, what is going on? I don't even know what's going on. So it's really important for you guys to understand what that looks like on the other end of a listing side when, as a buyer's agent, you're sending contracts in that are clean. And so that's why I was saying on the Slack channel, first of all, thank you for showing up. Thank you for going deeper. And even if you learn one thing out of showing up today on how to make your contract cleaner, you're winning, because you're going to win an offer. I guarantee it, you're going to win an offer by doing that one thing that makes that offer cleaner. And then the other part of it is internally. I know we have a lot of forms. I get it. However, the thing is when, and I have filled out these forms before where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got to go through all this stuff. But the thing is what happens when you fill these forms out and you don't take your time and you don't do it right and you rush, it triggers a bunch of other things on the other end that causes a disaster. I promise you, it's just so much work for our TC department, for our listing department, for the operations side. They're all nodding their head right now. Yep. Please slow down and do this stuff right. I beg of you. Okay, because we've been asking and we've been saying it in the team meetings for weeks on end. And what's going to happen is we're going to have to start pushing stuff back. We're going to have to start being big meetings, and we don't want to do any of that stuff. So Rachel's going to take us through all the many things. Lauren, I see you're on here. Susie's on here. I don't know if anybody else is speaking, but I'm excited to see what you guys got. And I'm going to learn too. So baton is passed to you, Unicorn Queen.
All right. Well, thank you guys for jumping on. And real quick, just to kind of piggyback on what Serri was saying. When I was TCing in Colorado, we did an average of 1 to 125 deals a year, and I was the only TC. So I was reviewing every contract that came through for all of our agents, for all of our listings, and I was always doing a spreadsheet of multiple counteroffers. And the one thing we always looked for was the cleanest contract. If you're making errors, the listing coordinator or the TC who's reviewing this, they're going to note that for their agent, or the agent, if they know what they're doing, they're going to note this, and your offer is going to get pushed towards the back because yes, they'll be presented, but it's not the best one for the seller. If you're bringing in a sloppy contract to start, what does that say about how the deal is going to be for you? So contracts are, they're the cornerstone to a good transaction for your clients. That's what's most important. So, like Ashley said, I wrote up a quick little contract. Show my screen. And I just want to go through it with you guys. Can you guys see my offer that I have up?
Yes.
Yep, looks good.
All right. So I did this for good old Testy McTesterson. And I did this for my property that I'm completely renting, but I just wanted to go through the main things, and that's the RPA. Like they've said, we've got templates. So a lot of this is just plug and play. But the main things, when you start, you want to make sure that you've got section 2B filled out. In the MLS, you can always pull the license numbers for these agents. If that's not in the MLS for whatever reason, just reach out to the agent. That way it's one less thing that's going to have to be countered when you go under contract. So we've got, that's weird. Earlier I had, okay, so this is a zip forms issue. I had 30 days in here, but for some reason it did not save. When you go through, you're going to put in your purchase price, you're going to put in your initial deposit, your loan amount, and then your down payment. Your EMD is initially part of your down payment. And when I go through the pending form, I'm going to explain how we want this broken out. So it saves us time having to go back and forth and confirm what these numbers are. They might change if they get counted. But note, it's going to be your EMD, your initial deposit, your loan, and then your down payment. I also had $5,000 in credits here. It's not showing up. If you're going to be having or asking the seller to do a credit to the buyer to go down towards like their closing costs or buy down rates and whatever, you want to make sure that G1 is always filled out. You'll put your number and it'll automatically put in your percentage. Your additional finance terms, those should always be part of the template and already in there. As you go through, this is one of the things that Gary brought up. H3, pre-qualification, pre-approval, and fully underwritten. I believe, Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, we are putting pre-approval as marked in our templates from now on, but always please double check this section.
That's correct. That should be checked on the templates for everyone.
Oh.
Something I wanted to quickly note, if you copy our template and fill in your information, and you use that template, that's not being updated with the updates that we make. So I just wanted to note that really quick. If you're using a template, make sure you're using ours because it's the most up to date.
So yeah, if you are providing a lender letter with your offer, which you should be, please always make sure that this is checked. Again, it's these little things that will eventually have to get countered, and it might just be, you know, that straw that breaks the camel's back, where the agent's like, you know, this person has all this filled out, this person's missing these little things, and it might push the other client to get the house once you're buying. Next, we've got contingency. This section is a little overwhelming for a lot of agents, I feel like. But the main things are, you've got your main contingencies, your loan, your appraisal, and your inspection. In section 3 or 3L, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're going to have your other related documents or items related to the inspection itself. So investigation of property is generally your physical inspection, but you've got different things like review of seller documents. A lot of the times I will see this specific one is changed to like 3 or 5, because I think a lot of agents believe that that's when you're going to receive documents from the seller, but it's not. To make a note, N1 is the seller delivery of documents. These are the disclosures. Serri is really good always about changing this to like 3 or 5 for her deals to make sure that we're getting disclosures as soon as possible. This gives your client more time upfront to review everything and make sure they don't have questions. So just make a note of that. N1, if you're wanting your disclosures sooner than just like a regular 7-day period, you need to change it there. Let's see. This is another section. We were speaking about this in our ops meeting this morning, and we're going to get more into it when we talk about a couple of the disclosures. This section 3Q5 and Q6. These are for government required point of sale reports or inspections. So a lot of you ask questions about the fire hazard and defensible space disclosure. If these are checked, then it's requiring these disclosures for these reports and inspections. A lot of agents will counter these out. You'll see that because the property might not be in a fire or high fire zone. But if you're wanting to have fire inspection done, then you would want to check this section. But really, you should be going down to 10A and 10B to review these and know what they're asking.
Hey, Rachel, one of the questions was if you could zoom in just a little bit. Would you mind being able to do that?
You can also hit view options
There you go.
on your side too and do zoom in.
That's good though. That's great right there. You guys keep an eye on the chat too. There's some good pointers that are being put in the chat. So can everybody hear as well? Hear you, Rachel?
Rachel is cutting out a little bit here and there.
It's
I
spectrum.
think that might be, yeah, I think that might be the internet, unfortunately.
I hear you okay, but I think it's kind of here and there. Okay.
All right. So allocation of costs is another one I want to talk about real quickly. If you're wanting the termite report, yes, Steve, I did move the section 1 clearance. So Q2 is for reports. You're going to ask for a termite report paid by the seller, naturally. But if you're wanting section 1, Q16 is a really good spot because it's just the fee. So you're asking for the seller to pay for the fee of the section 1 clearance. And so putting it down here in Q16 or Q17, depending on where our doc archive fee is a good spot for reference. Any questions on that? No, cool. Moving on. Of course, we always have our home warranty into the templates, so that's always there for you. I think that's the main thing other than these other advisories. So your BIA, wire fraud for housing, and CCPA, these are part of the RPA. A lot of our seasoned agents will go ahead and also include the wildfire advisory, the MCA, and the SBSA right off the bat and have it signed with your contract. I think that is best practice. That way you're providing your client as much information up front as possible and leaving the section with disclosures mainly for the disclosures that are provided by the seller. that's what I've got for filling out the actual contract itself. A lot of this is already put in here for you. So you just need to plug and play where it has like these blue sections where you can include this information. It took me 10 minutes to do this contract. But if you guys don't understand or have questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help and help you guys, learn. The other thing I wanted to real quick just let you know is make sure you're checking the boxes. Just read through everything and check the right boxes. So less things to be countered. Any questions on the RPA that I can?
Rachel, I have a question. Where you have like the fee for, what was it, for the warranty? Did you just change that from like 650 to 750?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right, because I left it the way y'all originally had it, and then it actually ended up costing more. So I was asking Gary about that. So I was like, oh wait, does that have 750? So okay, perfect. So just keep it at 750, then change it.
Yeah, so you can change it. I think 650 is what's in our templates, but yeah, you can go in and change that. If you know, for condos, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. If you've got a $2 million home, you might be asking for $1,000 for a warranty. Just one of those things. There are different options with home warranties. We give you kind of a general base price to go off of.
So just kind of plan accordingly if it's a condo or if it's going to be more, and just put it in the offer. And then where do you said the section 1 clearance for the termite, but we kept the original one up in the forms, right?
Yeah, so that's where it is currently.
So that's an additional fee too, or both of it was only, like, I think the one that I'm in escrow on right now, that was only like $95. That included the clearance one, or that was just like for the base?
So a lot of the time, so depending on who an agent uses, the report itself will be one cost, and then the clearance itself is the actual work that's being done to remediate the home from having termites. So we're not asking for a report on section 1 clearance. We're asking for them to pay for section 1 clearance, and that could be anywhere from $400 to, I think on one of Sam's deals we saw like $40,000.
Oh, wow.
So we want to make sure it's a fee and cost. So it's something that we can update in the templates for you guys. But this is what I've seen as best of this year.
Real
so
quick.
Will this,
sorry. Go ahead, Ashley.
Just my final question was, will this automatically update in the templates now? Or will it keep the other ones and I need to manually update it to this moving forward?
So I just went in and updated the templates to move the section 1 clearance. But if you've already used this like before 5 minutes ago, it's not gonna update. So you'll have to go in and manually
But
do
moving
that.
forward on my next contract, everything will be updated, what we're seeing today, correct?
That's correct. I did not update the home Q18, did not update that number. I certainly can if you guys want me to, but I think the base package is 650 is what I was told, or 625.
I think it's actually a bit lower. We added that on there in case for like AC.
Okay, so that's just something you guys are going to have to pay attention to when you're writing your contract.
Right. And I think we have the brochure in Slack somewhere don't we, for the home warranty, where you can look it up. Because that's what I do. If like the home has a pool, for example, it's probably going to be more than 650.
Yeah.
So you want to go in there and look at the brochure and add that additional amount. Or like you said, if it's a condo, you can put it a little less or whatever. But yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
And
Rachel,
if you, go ahead.
do they have to provide us with the termite inspection or just get the clearance?
So if you're going to be getting clearance, you're going to be getting the report as well. So it's always best to have both of them in there if you're wanting clearance.
Because what you should be doing when you go back for your final walkthrough, you should be taking that termite report with you to ensure that all the wood replacement has taken place. And you can't do that if you don't have the report with you.
Right. And is there ever a situation where the clearance would be too expensive and the seller counters that?
I mean, they could initially counter it in the RPA, but if they agree to it, they're in the purchase contract, then they're tied to do it. They're contractually obligated to complete that repair.
And sometimes agents will leave the termite off, just so you know, if you're on the listing side, they'll leave this off on the RPA, but then during the request for repairs, they can ask for it. Then just be aware of that. I see that
Yeah, it
happen. I've done
becomes
that
an
before.
additional negotiation if it's not
Right.
in the RPA.
Correct, yeah.
Cool. Any other questions on the RPA?
Just also, when it comes to the home warranty, remember, if you've got a rural property, you've got septic to be concerned with, you possibly have a well to be concerned with. And when you do the warranty, you want to make sure you calculate those costs into it because you want to cover that for your client. Now, again, it may get too high. The seller may not want to pay it. So you have to make sure your buyer understands, hey, the seller will pay up to $750, but if you want these other coverages, you're going to come in with the extra money.
Correct. The more you can prep your client and really go through these contracts, and like you guys need to be contract specialists, be able to go through and just really sit down and review these. A lot of people, unless they're like a type A engineer, they're going to see these contracts and they're going to be really overwhelmed, and for good reason. It's a lot of information. So the more you can know and the more you can prep them, the easier it's going to be down the line for you. But that is what I have for the RPA. The next thing I wanted to go over was the pending form. So, can you guys see my FUB screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, for Testy McTesterson, I went through this morning and I did my appointment form, my disposition form, and then my pending form. Susie and I live on this pending form. When we open escrow, we have to have it. And if it's done correctly, it saves us an immense amount of time going through it. So I'll zoom in on this. All right, can everybody see it okay?
Yes.
The first thing I want to go through is the under contract date. I've been getting a lot of issues with this from agents who are giving me their under contract date when they had a mutually executed contract that was accepted by all parties the day before. Your under contract date is not the date that you write the pending. It is the date that everything has been signed and the contract has been received by both parties. So if you get it at 10 o'clock at night from, say you're a listing agent and you get a counter back that's fully executed at 10 o'clock at night on Sunday night, that is your acceptance date, not Monday morning when you got in and read your emails and saw that you received it. So please just be aware of that because that changes all of our dates and deadlines. And I've had several transactions lately where I've got other TCs or even escrows saying, oh, hey, no, this is not our, our date, it's this date. And so I have to go back through and change all of our dates, which makes us look like we don't have our shit together, pardon my language, but it is what it is. So please just be aware your mutually executed contract and your acceptance date is when everybody has the fully executed contract. Next, if you're a buyer's agent and you see the listing agent commission percent, you can just throw in 0. That's totally fine. We don't expect you to know what the listing agent is making on the deal. If you are a listing agent, please put in both percent so we know what the buyer's agent's making and what you're making. Cooperating agents, another one I've been seeing is incomplete email addresses or incorrect email addresses for listing agents or title TCs, things like that. Again, please just slow down and take your time entering this information. I know it's like a lot, but I don't feel like the takes that long. So if you can make sure that we have the right information, again, it just saves us from having to go back and forth and find information. Let's see. Other things that we're seeing. Okay, so earlier I was talking about on the RPA, you're going to have your loan amount, your down payment, and your earnest money amount, earnest money deposit. Loan amount, if there has been a counter, please let us know what the new amount is going to be that, the lender has let you know. That way we're not having to sit there and either calculate or confirm the numbers with you. When you put in your down payment amount, please use the balance of the down payment. That's the only number that we need in that section. EMD and balance of down payment, when you put them together, yes, that's your deposit. But we have them separated in this form, so we just need this number and this number and this number. So we see a lot of agents who will put together their EMD and the balance of the down payment together, and then we're having to go back through and recalculate. So if you can just remember to pull D1, E1, and F will be golden. Any questions so far? No. And then the other issue that we are seeing is which contingencies apply. This is a drop-down menu for anybody who hasn't done a pending form before. And you've got a couple options. You'll see which contingencies apply. You'll have inspection by itself, you'll have appraisal by itself, or you'll have appraisal and inspection. We've got a lot of agents who are saying appraisal only and not putting in the inspection. So just make sure you're checking, because there are multiple options for you to choose from. That way you can put in these dates or these numbers. So we have that information. And the last thing I wanted to show you guys, there's a nifty little note section at the end when you are about ready to submit your pending form. This is a great section to put things like seller credits or any rent back information that we don't have. Any information that we need to know about the transaction, go ahead and just throw it in the notes section. What it does is it drops it into CSU for us. So we've got it there, we have it here, and it's a great reference point. So Susie, do you have anything to add on the pending form? No. All right, cool. Let's see, so that's the main thing. Oh, and with the attachments, I wanted to tell you guys there is a website called ilovepdf.com. Write it down, save it somewhere, use it. It's a great free service for you. So when you put in your residential purchase agreement, if you've got multiple counters and then you've got your proof of funds and your lender letter and you're like, I can't upload all of this to one spot, the great thing is if you go to I Love PDF, I will just show you. I have it saved because I use it all the time. You can merge PDFs. So you can take your proof of fund and your lender letter, put them together. You can put all of your counters together. You can also split and compress different forms. So they've got tons of free stuff that you can use. It's a great resource, free. So ilovepdf.com. And then what's next? Lauren, do you want to talk about the fire hazard disclosure? No, she does not. All right, I will.
No, I mean, we can. Yeah, I think they're.
I get it.
Go ahead.
So this is a form that we're having a lot of issues with. I don't know if it's a glide issue. We're trying to figure out what the issue is, but this is a form that needs to be filled out if per the NHD, the property falls into a, let's see, high or very high fire zone. If it does, your seller needs to fill this out. This is a form that we need all of you agents to become familiar with. It's a very confusing form. So the more information that you know about it, it's going to help your clients because they're not going to understand this form. They will need help. And what the issue is somehow the sellers are bypassing required fields, and then we're having to go back and try to get them to answer, and they have no idea. So we really need you guys to be familiar with this form so we can better educate our sellers and have less issues when we're in action.
I think maybe the easiest thing to do right now with it is for agents to talk through it with their sellers and maybe jot down all of the answers somewhere. And then the TCs or myself can go in and like fill it out and then get it signed. For whatever reason, like Rachel mentioned, they're bypassing all the required fields. I don't know how. But yeah, it's getting frustrating because we're trying to like get the answers, and so it's this one is going to be one that we need to rely on you guys as agents to help however you want to get those answers and get it to us so we can get it signed and filled out. That would be great.
And I'm also going to see if Jason, our broker, can potentially do maybe a more in-depth training on these specific forms like this, especially like the new ones that came out this year, because he will nerd out on them and give you great information. So I'm going to see if we can get that done for you guys. But a lot of this form, the issue is people don't know defensible space and whether or not that they are going to need to get an inspection done. This goes back to section 3G 5 and 6, the government inspections and reports. So if that's checked and it's in a high fire zone, then this form is going to have to be filled out, and you need to know how to figure out if they have to get an inspection done. So the nice thing is you can go to Cal Fire's defensible space, and they've got information. You'll go down and you'll request a defensible space inspection. Make this bigger for you guys. And on this first page, when the fire, let's see, if you need to know whether or not the home is in a place where it needs to have inspection, you'll just go to this fire hazard severity zone link. You'll add in the address. There's a space spot where you can add in your address. So maybe it lets me. Anyways, you'll put in your address after you click on the binoculars over here in this corner, and it'll zoom in and it'll tell you by the colors if the property is in a zone that requires the inspection. So if it's not in one of the colored zones, you don't need it. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to send out all of this information, and I'm sorry our internet's kind of buggy at the moment. There you go. So up here, my house would be in a fire zone. I would need to get the inspection done, and that becomes the seller's cost. And you can order it through Cal Fire, and they'll come out, they'll do an inspection, let you know everything is good, or if anything's changed. So that's one thing that you guys do need to know about that form. I'll put together all the information on that and I will share it with you all so you have it. But again, I'm going to try and get Jason to do a nice training that's a little bit more in depth to help you guys understand it, so you can turn around and help your sellers understand it, because our job is to make this as easy as possible.
Rachel, you said this is at seller's cost?
Yeah, they can make it a buyer's cost.
I've never had a seller have to pay for this. I've had several done and there was no cost to it.
No cost. Okay. Well, seller, I'm sorry, I should have specified seller responsibility to get the inspection done. So
Okay, so there's no cost.
No, I'm in the middle of it and there is a cost. It's a couple $100.
Oh, is it? Okay, well then they must have changed it. When this started a few years ago, I had 4 of them done, and they even sent out an aircraft to do one of the properties because it was so remote, and the seller never had to pay anything. So they must have changed this now to make it worthwhile for the fire department to go out.
Yeah, so it's seller's responsibility generally, especially if you have in the RPA, you've agreed that the seller is going to handle the costs for any government related inspections or reports.
Jody, who is the responsible party on your escrow?
My seller listing.
Okay,
And it's like $200, you said?
Yeah, I was just talking to him last night. He said it was a couple $100. He didn't give me the exact cost yet, but he just said that he was paying for it, and it takes 2 days to get them to even get a hold of you, and then it takes about a week for them to come out. So it is a little bit of a time consuming. So that's the only bummer.
so you do need to make sure then that you get an extension if you're short in contingencies, FYI to the team.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had no idea it was a high fire zone, so it was unexpected.
So
And
this is good.
One of the things was Lauren is really great about ordering the NHD reports when you bring a new listing. And so definitely one of the things when you should be going through these disclosures, not just this one, but your SBQ, TDS, you should be walking your clients through so that they understand what they're filling out. Also review the NHD report. That way, because it's literally page 4. It will tell you it's in a very high fire hazard severity zone, and that's what starts triggering this form.
Yeah, if you guys want, when we do the listings and when we get the NHD, you're copied on the reports, but if you want me to do like an extra flag, like, hey, this is in a high fire zone, so everyone's aware up front, I can start doing that if that helps you guys. But yeah, you should also be receiving the copies of the NHD reports and all of the stuff too.
Any other questions on this one? No. Cool. All right. The other couple things that I saw in Serri's poll that people wanted to go over were counters and addendums. I don't write counters, so I will have Lauren speak on that. And then I'll kind of touch base with you guys on addendums. I wanted to see what questions you guys had kind of off the bat about addendums. That way I can answer them for you. So if anybody's got questions, and if not, then we can go on to counters. Bueller. No? Okay. If you do have questions about addendums, feel free to reach out to Susie or myself, and we can answer those for you. Lauren, would you mind kind of touching base on counters and just maybe go through?
Yeah, so I mean, the only counters that I can speak on are for our listings. So some of the things that I notice on listings that we want to pay attention to when we receive offers for our sellers, make sure all of the seller services are us. So like escrow, title, NHD, termite, all of that stuff, just counter and make sure it's seller choice. What else is there?
So Lauren, I used to say, I mean, I know you get very detailed to help us out to put those in there specifically, but I used to say seller's choice of services.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's at the very least?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Cause things like the NHD that we order up front. So if you get an offer and they ask for another NHD and we don't counter it, then we have to like cancel, the one that we have and order a new one. So yeah, basically seller services for everything when it's your listing. And then just make sure you're paying attention to the items where they're requesting appliances, make sure all the items actually convey with your property. So if someone's asking for washer dryer and it doesn't come with the house, make sure we counter that out.
Another thing on that, you guys remember, like if you say refrigerator and there's a refrigerator in the house and in the garage, you need to be very specific if you say refrigerator conveys, because that's a gray area.
Yeah, if there's more than one refrigerator.
We also have, this is for sellers, but there's a counter offer template in zip forms that you guys can use as well.
So I was just looking for that.
Yeah, we have that's specific for sellers. I don't think we have one for buyers in there, but there's a template created for you. And the very first page of it is something that Lauren put together of what to keep in mind and what to pay attention to for your counters.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Ashley. It's been a while since I've done counters.
Something just to add to that I think is nice is a while back, Susie had sent over a bunch of sample pre-filled out forms of requests for repairs, counters, all kinds of stuff. I've also added into that. It's on a Google Drive. Right now it's in the mentor huddle pinned at the top. You can see a lot of samples, and kind of while we're on this, is if there's anybody, experienced agents, if you guys have stuff that you could share, that would be awesome, so that we can kind of refer and look back at, like, maybe there's something that you do differently that's a great idea or whatever, so we can all kind of like look at those, because sometimes there's forms like maybe you've never done a particular form before. It's great to be able to reference and see how they did it. You know, that's how I learned how to do my requests for repairs. I used to just type up, you know, whatever, fixed leaky faucet or something, versus referencing it to the actual home inspection report or something like that. I don't know, it's not the best example, but if you guys have any forms or something top of your mind that you want to share, and here's how I do it, just a little nugget or something that could help other agents, it'd be awesome. We could all put it on. You can black out or blur out, or send it to me and I'll do it, blur out the names and, you know, anything like that, confidential information. So,
and I just added 3 links that Gary was kind enough to share with me. One is regarding the request for repairs, one is regarding how to fill out the AVID, and the third is sample RPA common errors. So that's all information for you guys as well. I just shared it in the chat. Click on the links and save them. Lauren, do you have anything else to add on counters?
I don't think so. As far as buyer counters, I don't know if any of the more experienced agents want to chime in on stuff that they noticed for that counter. I can't really speak on when we represent buyers. But yeah, that's it.
Anybody else have any questions on counters? Cool. See, we got about 15 minutes. So I'm gonna pull up this RR that Gary sent me, and we can go through it.
I feel we don't have very many questions until you're actually like in it and you have like a deadline, and then I'm calling Gary nonstop because always questions come up. So
yeah, it's hard to think of anything right now until you're in it, you know. And this particular one she's going to show you is pretty extensive. This isn't a norm, at least not for me. But yeah, do you want to go through it, Rachel? I just wanted to.
Well, Gary, if you want to go through it, I'll scroll.
Sure. So this is just request for repair. If you can't fit everything on this line, you check mark that. It'll give you an attachment. Scroll down just a little bit more. And, you know, if you only have a few items, obviously you can just use this one page. Make sure you're always including the home inspection report so that listing agent has something to reference. Go ahead and go to the next one. And this is where if somebody's got even a better idea, that's the share. But this one, like I said, is pretty extensive. Let me make my screen go a little bigger. You can see where I reference the page, you know, and then the 2.1, 0.4, and then, you know, basically asking what you want to have done. On this particular one, there was some. On number 4, there was like quite a few things that related just to the electrical system. And then, so I kind of separated it just to make it a little bit easier to read, I was hoping, because it's a lot. Like if you keep scrolling down too, you can just see there's all these different things. And they did counter back because we wanted to have our own licensed electrician. Just a little history on this one, just so you know that the agent was also the investor. He flipped this home and we just didn't trust him. It turned out he did everything. He went above and beyond, fixed stuff that we didn't even ask. He did a great job. He did what he said he was going to do. And if we found anything else, even though we didn't ask for it, he's like, don't worry about it, I'll fix it. We didn't want to take anything verbal, you know, but we just didn't trust him, and he ended up doing a great job. But he did counter, and he countered on they wanted to use their own electrician. We didn't feel comfortable with that, but what are we going to do? We had to accept it. And then something that I've never done, and I called car legal a couple different times, was I've and probably some of you guys have done this, but we had it re-inspected after everything was fixed. I've just never really had to do that. They usually provide receipts and provide things for you. So, you know, we kind of go with that, but we were just, the electrical was an issue. It ended up not being, but it was during the home inspection, the lights were blinking. They went off a couple times, and this was really with no load. There wasn't, it was a vacant house. So we were concerned that, like, what happens when you're running the washer dryer, you're on your computer, TV's going, lights are on, blah, blah, blah. You know, is it going to just, it's not, the panel's not set up for it or whatever. End up being a loose ground wire, which after the fact we figured out that's probably what it was, and it was. So, you know, but anyways, just so you guys get the idea when you're writing these out, and oftentimes I'll look at the report, like say number 5, for example, qualified professional to correct slope event. That's what they put in the report. I'll put that. I may want to change it. I might want to have a specific licensed person to do that versus just saying qualified professional. It just depends on what you're doing. So, does anybody have any questions or anything like on this, or comments? Maybe there's other agents that do things differently. That's even a better way. I don't know.
I was just going to emphasize what you just said about licensed professional. So make sure if you say, you know, fix electrical panel, you don't know if they could literally have Joe Schmo fix electrical panel. So you want to say by a licensed professional. Just make sure you have wording in there at all times for that, if that's what you're meaning. Because just remember, it's like, it's a matter of gray areas with contract, and you're always trying to avoid those gray areas. So just think a little further when you're writing that stuff up.
Yeah.
And then that way you guys can fall back and say, we would like to see the report from the licensed professional. So you guys have that on hand as well.
Yep. Yep. And we, you know, like right here, licensed electrician, but then other things I might have put qualified. There's some things that clearly like this one, this slope of the vent, I could have fixed that, you know what I mean? And I'm nowhere near even qualified, but we wanted to have, so a handyman could do it, is what I'm saying. Is there's certain things a handyman could do, but you may not know, you know, to be safe, put licensed or qualified or whatever you want to do. You know, maybe I should have put licensed plumber here. I put qualified plumber, but I think a plumber's a plumber. I don't think you pretty much have to be licensed to be a plumber.
So the other part of this too is, if you don't want to ask for like specific repairs, you could say, hey, I'm just gonna request for $10,000 credit or whatever that credit amount is. And then that way it goes to, you have to check with the lender, make sure that the lender can use all that money if you're already getting credits. But you can ask for a credit in lieu of, and then your buyer can take that money after closing and hire their own people, or take the money or whatever they want to do. It's a credit. And then they can have those repairs done by whoever they want. I personally loved, as a buyer's agent, going that route because it made life a lot easier on everybody. There was less liability. That was just a lot cleaner. And as a listing agent, I always enjoyed that too, because I didn't have a laundry list of things that we had to go in and take care of. So.
Yeah, so if you're wanting to ask for a credit, you would go for section 1C, check your box, put in the amount. And then if the termite in section 1 are not in the RPA, but you are wanting to request them, that's section 1B, I. So you would just select that, put in the information when the pest control report was dated and who it was prepared by, and that you're just asking for section. So,
and the other thing is, you could do a blend too. You could do a blend of things. You could say, hey, give me $3,000 credit, fix these 2 items, do the termite. You can mix this up however you want. You can blend all that.
And to add to that, when you're doing the credit, you also want to have you attach an addendum, correct me if I'm wrong, saying seller to pay whatever, a maximum of $5,000 of buyers recurring and non-recurring closing costs. You want to make sure that it's not saying it's for repairs.
Correct. Yes.
Even though it might
that
be
is
indirectly.
That is a very good point. So if you do have a request for repairs that is agreed upon and it has a credit in it, and you are working with a lender, you have to have an addendum, and you cannot send the RR to a lender, because it's going to have issues that are wrong that are being corrected, and that is a red flag. So if you're working with a lender, you have a credit on a request for repair or an RRRR, then you want to have an addendum.
And you
Again,
have to say recurring and non-recurring closing costs.
Yep.
You guys forget, or you don't know, I'm sure the TCs can help draw some stuff up too, but it's important to say recurring and non-recurring closing costs, because again, the lender doesn't want to know that there's a pipe burst, and they don't want to know that there's things wrong with the house. You don't want to send them any of that stuff. It's just a recurring and non-recurring closing cost credit.
Yep, and we're happy to write that up for you if you need. We don't generally write up RRs. I know Susie in our intro meetings said, if you're in the middle of the desert, you have really poor reception and you need it written up, then yeah, reach out to us with exactly what you are wanting written. So we're essentially just copying and pasting for you, and we can get them sent out. Or if you just need the addendum done for a credit, we're happy to send that out as well.
And I was corrected because I used to say a seller to pay $5,000 in recurring, non-recurring, buyers recurring, non-recurring. I got corrected a number of times saying to put the word maximum. So I just started doing that. I don't know if that's a big deal, but I always put the word maximum in front of that dollar figure.
You can. I mean, it depends on if there's, if there's a credit in the RPA, or if this is the first credit that's being shared. So verbiage will change a little bit. And if you've got questions on that, Susie and I, we're happy to answer those questions as it comes along. Any other questions on RRs, request for repairs? Cool. Well, are there any other contracts that you guys do have questions on real quick that we can go over? We got about 6 minutes left.
Well, I've had issues with the tenant one, and Gary can go more into detail and explain it more, but like what was it, Gary? Like the estoppel and yeah.
TOPA form.
Let's educate people on those, because that's been tough for my first one.
That is one that I am not very familiar with. I don't know, Gary, do you feel comfortable?
Not super familiar with it either. I remember we had talked about it, but so there was a couple things that just needed to be checked. And one of them was the estoppel. The other one was, oh man, I don't have it in front of me. It's like almost like their ledger. There's two things that you want to check from the get-go. Steve, you might know off the top of your head which one it is. I don't have it in front of me on the TOPA. It's definitely, you want to check the estoppel. There's one other one that you want to check. Another thing that I know, Ashley, we were struggling with was in that TOPA form, it clearly states that the seller needs to provide the existing lease agreement. And it tells you, basically what it's telling you in so many words is referring you back to the RPA of the default of the 7 days of when the seller has to provide you documents, all the SPQ, TDS and all that. It should have been done there. With her deal, it was like pulling teeth to get that information. We eventually got it, but it was a struggle. And that was just something that they need to provide. And that part was in the contract. The estoppel wasn't, so. I don't know. Is there anybody else that's had like issues with tenants, with doing the TOPA form?
I'm playing heck trying to get mine now as well, because I have a tenant property we're buying, and I've been after the listing agent for about 3 weeks now to give me that information, because they're transferring security deposits and everything else. It's been a pain.
Yeah. And I know some of the old schoolers like Serri and some of the people like way before, like back in the day, it definitely was before the market got super crazy. We never did rent backs, anything like that. It was a big no-no to like let people stay after the close of escrow for any amount of time. It happened here and there, but there was always this big, huge, giving them precautions and warning them like it's just not a good idea liability wise, all kinds of stuff. Then it just became the norm for a while that like, yeah, they're going to stay rent free for, do no rent back, really, basically rent free for 30 days or more or whatever, because sellers could just get whatever they wanted. And then I think now that we've transitioned back, there's still a little bit of that as far as this particular case, what Ashley's talking about, it's not not a seller rent back kind of a thing, but it's still a similar situation where you're letting people stay in your home and you become, they owned the home and now you become basically like their landlord, you know, you could have some issues that could arise. I just try to avoid it as much as possible, but sometimes you can't, you know, you got to get your offer accepted. And that's the way you got to do it. That's what you got to do. Just forewarn your clients of all the different things that can happen.
Yeah, this goes back to you guys becoming a contract or disclosure, specialist. Really read through. I'm gonna reach out to Jason and see if we can get him scheduled to do a training with us. We'll do, the tenant occupied property addendum, the TOPA, fire hazard and defensible space, along with the new buyer broker form. And, if there's any others that you guys are like really wanting more information on, get those for him to go over as well. So
how many of you all, when you got into real estate, knew that you'd be contract and form experts? How many of you were like, man, I can't wait to be a contract and form expert? Guess what? You're gonna be. You're gonna be clerical. You're gonna be admin. You're gonna be not me. You gotta know that this is part of real estate. This is the ugly part of real estate that people don't usually talk about much. That you're gonna have to be an expert at. So, like Rachel said, we'll get some training in. We'll keep going at it. I'd encourage you guys to watch YouTube videos. Like, do your own self-studying as well. The other thing is read the contract. Literally, I can't tell you how many people are like, I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, did you read it? And they didn't read it. If you go and you slow down and you read what you're asking, it typically will direct you and give you the answers, if this, then that. And so I just encourage you guys to study, learn, be the expert, and read what you have in front of you. And we'll do our best to keep you guys updated on stuff too.
To piggyback on that, as well as, Susie a year ago had provided me the RPA manual or guide. It's 60 pages long. I know I've told probably quite a few of you this already, but just so everybody kind of hears, it's, how the RPA, you've got the first 4 pages and then you can reference it within the middle of it, whatever, maybe on page 7, it references whatever, the earnest money deposit or something like that. And you can read a little bit more in detail. The RPA guide goes one step further. So something that might be in the RPA, a description of a particular item that's like a paragraph long, it's 3 or 4 paragraphs in the RPA, and it really gives a good explanation of all of that. I never knew that the deposit wasn't it's not required, but everybody does it. In the RPA manual, it tells you it's not required, but it even tells you that you pretty much, if you don't have skin in the game, no one's going to accept the offer. But it's not a requirement. And the reason I looked it up was because a lot of the sample RPAs, mainly with the VA, they were leaving that blank because they thought, well, they're not doing any money down. They're confusing deposit with the down payment. But yeah, the deposit's actually not a requirement, but I don't know. I bet you there's nobody on here that's ever sent an offer or received an offer that has 0 in there. At least I'd be amazed. It's just,
that's a strong point when you're writing an offer. Especially when you're going up against, let's just say, multiple offers, and then you've got cash out there as well. If your client really truly is dead set and they want that, the more they can put down, the stronger it's going to be for them. Again, like Rachel had said earlier, this is all part of the down payment. So it's not like they're coming in with additional monies on top of that.
Right. And if it's VA, maybe you can get away with less. Maybe you can do 500 or 1,000. I don't know. For those of you that do a lot of VA, maybe you can go a little less. Maybe the seller's a veteran themselves and they're like, hey, but I feel like you got to give something. Maybe you don't have to do the typical 1 to 3%. You could do a little less, and it's okay. But and even the 1 to 3% isn't like that's just kind of a standard. But you could go less, but they can also say no. So.
All right, well, just to keep with time, let's wrap it up. Thank you, Rachel, Susie, Lauren, Gary, all of y'all for all your contributions on this. Thank you, everybody who showed up. That's awesome. I hope you guys left with at least one thing, right? Did everybody leave with one thing? At least one thing. It was worth it.
Winning.
Winning.
Great job, Rachel. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. And
you, guys.
yeah,
Bye.
we'll follow up on some more training for you. So we want you guys to be rock stars.
This is
Thank
the good stuff, guys. Seriously, soak all this up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.